Okay, first up is Flora, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. It's an interesting short pattern, maybe a bit exaggerated on the bump, but it kind of works from a distance. I like it. Looks like you really did, get in and paint some color variation on the hands, which is good. Um, and the jeans are looking pretty good from the front. There's some obvious seams on here, which you might want to just kind of adjust in, Mudbox. I saw you were saying you're having some problem bringing the shoes into Mudbox. We can take a look at that. I thought the face could use some touch up because like the eyeliner looks all squiggly. If you open it up in Photoshop, you could clean it up in here. I'm just going to B for brush, and as an example, Alt click here and just making my brush bigger and just kind of cleaning this up. Seeing if I can get a little bit of a nicer line there. And then Alt click on this, and then let's something like that. Let's see how that looks and sort of compare it with its neighbors. So I'm going to save that, go back here, and let's click on that. Did it refresh yet? No. So let's, where's the, oh, you still have history on here. I'm going to delete history, Alt-Shift-D, and then I can find the Lambert easier. Go to the color and hit reload. No? Oh yeah, that is the new one. So I think I could still do a little bit of a better job on that, but I think it's cleaner than this one. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's a little bit, you're suffering from a somewhat low resolution too, for that level of detail. But you could just, take your time and get in there and paint. Save, color, reload. Yeah, I'm not loving that edge still. And it could be that has to do with the UV map too. We could take a look at that. It looks like a pretty good, well, see, we might be getting some kind of stretching here too. What I might do, and this will require redoing that a little bit, but giving yourself a little bit more room here for the map might help out. That's going to then screw up what the texture looks like now a little bit. Oh, did I do the wrong eye? Let's see. Oh no. Yeah, that is that eye. Surprised it didn't change the texture more when I adjusted that. Oh, I see. That was not the edge we're playing with right now. It's yeah, it's like this edge. And I can see it does seem like maybe it's a little crowded in there. We're not really even seeing all of these, so I might, if you wanted to give yourself a little more room to work. And now you should see that affected the position of it, but I have more. So the bad news is that line's in the wrong place. The good news is that you can kind of tell already that it's not stretching it as much. So see how it's like already a cleaner line because you have more sort of room to move in there. So I might do a new UV snapshot image, UV snapshot, and 2048 by 2048. And then here's where the file is. Just copy this. Go to Photoshop. Open that up. File name is not valid. Didn't seem to. Wonder if I did have my options set right there. I'm not sure what I did wrong there, but at least I can have this on here. And I think that I just copy and pasted the UVs. I think for the options I wanted. So we can change the edge color. Might be a good idea. I don't know why it didn't bring the image with it. Maybe because I had checkers I wanted to do. I don't know. Anyway, so I think that whole thing needs to come in, one edge's worth. So I might just go on this layer and way to do this in Photoshop, but just thinking I can sort of squish this into the, to go along that other line. That's there. And then just select this this blank area and maybe just grow that a little bit. Can just grow my selection a little bit here. And then do Shift F5 for a content-aware fill and see if that fills that in okay. Does that do alright? Yeah. And then, oh, it didn't do that great. Okay, for that I could just use the healing brush. Save that. Okay. Might have gone in a little bit too far, but the point of this story is that, with a little bit more room in the UV map, you can get a cleaner line there. But because you had so little pixel area on it, you couldn't really get that. And I could even adjust. Why does it keep doing that? I could even adjust the position of this now with the UV itself. As you can see there, you can move UVs around to adjust the position of the texture. Anyway, hopefully you can see the potential there. I don't think I did a perfect job of it. And I think you could have a thicker line too, would be the other thing back in the Photoshop file. But I just think that it's never going to be that nice looking with the limited pixel area that you had to work within. Regarding the shoe, I spent a lot of time trying to get it to export to Mudbox and couldn't get it to work. So I would just say paint it in Photoshop instead. Next up is Jeffrey, and yeah, this is looking good. There's a lot of nice kind of interesting detail on the clothing. Even though it's white, it still has a lot of sort of fabric detail on it, and it looks pretty seamless, so that's good. And the belt has a nice kind of stitch to it that worked out pretty well. It looks like it got a little kind of squeezed on this surface, just because if I look at the weave on this one and compare it to that one, I wonder if we can improve that just by playing with the UVs. Just curious. Maybe that's a little better, a little closer to what this one's like. Although then it gets a little squished on top, I guess. So we're just sort of moving the problem along more than solving it. But anyway, although that's more the part you'll notice, so maybe that matters more. Yeah, I'm not sure quite what texture that's supposed to be, but it's got some nice detail to it. I can see that you've painted some color variation on the face. I feel like his lip color is a little maybe too gray or purplish. Maybe you want to touch that up. And I think the eyebrows are maybe a bit too subtle. Maybe you want to give us a little bit more eyebrow. Can't really tell what sort of variation there is on the arm. So yeah, I can see you painted some on the arm, so it's good that there's some variation. I think you could try going a little further with that if you want. The eyes look good, and yeah, so I think it's just, I think it's fine. I think there's just a few things you can improve on, but overall this looks good. Okay, this is Gwen, and let's take a look. So the it looks like you've painted some face skin texture and stuff, which is good. I think the character, you could use some eyebrows, and there's a little detail on the hair there, so that's good. Although maybe something a little more noticeable and contrasty could be good, but I think it's okay. The shirt just seems to be a solid color, and I opened that up in Photoshop, and indeed it's a solid color. And then the same with the pants and the shoes. So I think it's on those kinds of things you could put some more time and add some more detail. And I think the same is true of this. There is this hand color, but is it? Yeah, it's just a solid color. There's really, if you're going to use a solid color, you don't need a texture. You can just assign a color to the material, and they'll do the same thing. So the purpose of the the textures is that you have more detail than just one solid color. So I think it's a good start, but I think you can spend more time painting the other parts of the body. The eyeballs are okay. So yeah, just add some things like pockets, seams, wrinkles, those kinds of things can really help. Maybe some kind of fabric texture for the shirt, something like that. A little detail on the hand would be nice as well. So again, a good start, but I think you could do a little bit more. Okay, this is Gordon, and yeah, looks like you're trying to do some rusting here. Looks like you didn't. Let's take a look at the UVs because I don't think you completed your UV layout from what I can tell. That doesn't really look laid out yet. Yeah, that's clearly not showing a checker texture. And here you can see some pretty significant distortion where they're all squeezed on the side and stretched there. And I can see that the UVs haven't been unfolded here. That looks okay. That's obviously this is a mess UV wise. So what's happened is you've tried to texture it before you've unfolded your UVs, and that's going to come up with kind of a messy situation like you have now. So really what you need to do is take a step back and do your UV unfolding and layout. This has way too many cuts in it. Yeah, I might just review the chapter, the instructions on this. But that's the reason these, clearly that hasn't been unfolded at all. It just looks, what I mean? You don't see the separate sides of the finger. It just looks like a, kind of a planar projection from the top. Although this one's sliced up into loads of little tiny shells. So yeah, you haven't done the UV layout and unfolding, and you can't texture until you've done that, and so you're not going to get good results until you do that. So, and then apart from that, yeah, and these meshes are combined, the two sides for some reason. So you want to separate those. Yeah, and these are combined. Okay, everything that's mirrored is combined. So you'll want to separate all of those. I don't know if it didn't do it. You might have to do it just one at a time there. So at this point, what I would say is if you want to continue with this character, you'll need to take a step back, do all your UV unfolding and layout first, and then move forward with the texturing and so forth. Or you have the option of I can give you like a stock model you can work with and go forward from there. Because I also, as I mentioned before, I think this robot design is going to be difficult, and I think that you're going to have trouble rigging it as well, texturing aside. So you might want to consider using the stock model. Just let me know. Okay, this one's Craig, and yeah, I think this has a really good look to it. Eyes look good. I like that you've got like a real style to how you've done the hair. Got some bump map stuff going on too, and that's cool. I think it works well with the character. Yeah, I can see you've done a whole fabric texture on the body, and there's some interesting sort of leather thing going on for this surface, which is cool. Oh yeah, like you even did a little tread on the bottom of the shoes. Yeah, really nicely done actually. Just a lot of subtle, good work here. I like the areas that you've painted pink on the face. You can give them sort of freckles kind of thing here, and a little bit of pink on the nose. And the cheek is nice, the ears. So it just goes with the overall style of the character. So yeah, and there's, oh look at these, they even got like nice fingernails painted there. Look how nice and detailed that is. That's really good. Looks like maybe there's a little seam right here. But yeah, just great work. really, it's got some subtle but really nice detail, but it really goes with the style of the character as well. So, um, yeah, excellent work. Next up is Josh, and it's being tricky relinking the textures. So usually what I do is I go set project, and I choose the project, but you don't have your scenes in your scenes directory. And also, if you did a file archive scene, it shouldn't give me all of these scene files. It should just give me one scene file. And your scenes shouldn't be sitting out in here. They should be in your scenes directory. So I don't think you've been setting your project, and I don't think you put your scenes in your scenes directory. So make sure you set your project and put your scenes in your scene directory. And when you turn in your file, choose File Archive Scene and send me that zip file, not just a zip of all this different stuff. And the result is that when I try to open the file, it doesn't link the textures. And I can also tell that if I go, for example, the color of this, see it says it's going to the desktop character images, and your images should be in your source images directory, not in your images directory. So try to get all of your files organized, because otherwise it's going to be frustrating to do. And then what it means for me is that I have to kind of relink all of these. Sort of manually, because the files aren't in all the right places. Okay, I found that one. That's good. Okay, and okay, well, it looks like I've got them all in there. Yeah, I like the seams and stuff you've done on the pants. It looks like you left your UV maps on your Photoshop file. So when you save that Photoshop file, you're going to want to hide those. In fact, since you have the Photoshop file still, I should be able to images. It should be in your source images directory. So let's say the denim texture, for example. So yeah, see that? I'm just going to hide that layer, save that, go back in here, select this, go to the color. It's going to give me a reload. Oh, right here. And now those lines are gone. So you just had that UV layer on. Sure, it's looking all right. It looks like you've got sort of a bit of a skin texture here, which is good, but then there's no kind of lips or variation in color or anything. I think the leather on the cap is working nicely. Although I would say that this the scale of these two things is so very different from each other that you're going to want to make those the same. And to me, this one looks a little big. So you might be able to fix that just right with the UVs without having to mess with the texture images. Let's see. Turn this off. Yeah, I mean the problem is I'm going to put a bunch of seams in there by scaling it up like that. But you see what I'm saying? It's still, that's smaller now. And this one, I would do the opposite. I think it doesn't look like that's really been laid out properly, by the way. But this one I would make kind of bigger to match. And then now they're about even. Whereas before they looked unnaturally different from each other. So yeah, more detail on the face and the skin coloring. I would say for the hands too, you could add some more detail. I do like what you've done with the pants. I think the shoe model is going to definitely need more detail. This is just not finished, in my opinion. This looks very. This just looks like a cylinder with a weird thing extruded out, and I believe I mentioned that on a previous video or two. So you might want to improve that. Okay. Okay, this is Catherine, and yeah, I can see, as you mentioned, some of your textures are missing. Let's see what we can find. I'm just gonna I need to go in the hypershade and hit this button here, and there is nothing plugged into the color of this one. So at some point, somehow that got disconnected. There's some files up here. Let's see, that doesn't have a name. Okay, here's sweater. Source image is sweater. So I can drag that back in here. Just middle mouse drag that back, and I'll color to the color and see if that's maybe what you had before. And let's see on this one. Again, no color. Let's see. We've got sweater, soccer, looks like, hair, eyebrows, skin. Maybe let's try fixing that. Well, let's do it for here, I guess. Map that, and oh, that is plugged into the color. Okay, it's looking for the skin, but I can't find it because it's set in your Mudbox folder instead of your source images folder, so you may want to move that to your source images folder, but here it is in that folder. And there's the skin, so that took care of those. However, it just looks like a solid color, and there's really no point in. You don't need a texture if it's just a solid color. You can just assign a color. The idea is to actually paint a texture. Let's see what's up with this one. What's this supposed to be? No texture there. Anything here? Maybe pants. Just there's the one skin, eyebrows, hair. I thought maybe it'd be one for your face. No, soccer. I don't know if that's supposed to be maybe the socks. Maybe. I'm guessing. Yeah. Oh, okay. That just says socks. Just a typo. So yeah, we could throw. Oh, I don't know which it is. They're not labeled. Okay. Lambert 8. Right mouse click. Assign material. Lambert 8. Alright, so that's looking a little more normal. The hair looks alright. Eyes are okay. And the sweater looks good. Pants look alright, and the socks are okay. So yeah, I just think just painting some additional detail on the skin. Make sure your images are in your sourced images directory. Make sure you set your project, before opening your file, and and you might have to relink those textures to get them to work. So yeah, it's looking okay. I just think you could spend more time painting textures like on the skin. Gives the skin some color variation, maybe paint some lips on, maybe some more detail around the eyes, those kinds of things. This is Taylor's, and I've tried opening this several times and it crashes every time I open it, so if you could try saving as a Maya ASCII file instead and turning it in again, maybe delete history off the surfaces, turn it as a Maya ASCII file. Also make sure you're using Maya 2018.4, that your Maya is updated to update 4 before you turn it as well. That would be great. Thanks. This is Danya, and yeah, I like the painting on the face. I like that you've painted some different shades and colors here, and the hair's looking okay. Maybe it can be a little finer detail. This got a little blurred. I'm wondering if the UVs are a little bit stretched out there. Not too bad. So maybe it's more the way you painted the texture. So um, this is just looking like a solid color. So I don't know if you've painted anything or not. And again, this sort of looks like a almost like a default gray. I guess there is some kind of image there. Um, that's interesting. There is an image there, but for some reason, oh, now it's showing up. I don't know. It wasn't linking before. Okay, yeah, no, that looks good. Let's see if the same is true of the shirt. I'm going to delete history, Alt Shift D, check this. Oh, no, okay, so that is just a solid color. And this is just a solid color. You could paint some detail there. So, yeah, I think, yeah, so things like the boots, hands, shirt, you could paint some detail, and then the hair could improve a little bit. Face is looking all right, although, as mentioned in the last model, I think, it's sort of very pointy here, and you could kind of flatten out the front. It looks very kind of, the whole thing is like a wedge shape, and I think it needs a little bit of modeling work. Like the lips are kind of this big kind of V, upside down V shape. So yeah, so a little bit more on some of those other surfaces, but the pants are looking good and the face is all right.